Hi, my name is Malik Abbas Dabo. Welcome to PM Express. We were counting years, and then months, and then weeks. Now we are counting days to the 2016 presidential and parliamentary elections. Yesterday, there was an early voting, which we called special voting. Many were of the view that this would be used as a litmus test as to what will happen on December 7. Did the Electoral Commission acquit itself properly so as to give everyone the confidence that this election will pass off peacefully and turn out credible results? There are those who believe it didn't, but others say, let's not cry wolf. They have learnt their lessons, the EC itself says. When we come back from the break, I will introduce my guests and we will break down all of these issues on PM Express. Stay tuned. You're welcome back. You're watching PM Express. My guest is a man who has become a friend of this show. I'm talking about Mr. Fred Oduro. He is a governance analyst, governance expert, governance specialist. He is also with the Institute of Local Government Studies. Mr. Oduro, welcome to PM Express.
Most happy to be here.
You must have monitored yesterday's event. What were your observations?
My first observation is to do with the number of complaints that were coming from all over the country. Hardly did you hear it's been smooth in any part of the country. So initially I felt there was a cause for alarm, and by and large I think maybe there's some level of firefighting going on to try to remedy the situation. But I think we had a very poor situation yesterday.
What in your estimation would have accounted for this? Because we knew this was coming. Various institutions such as multimedia submitted lists of candidates who would vote in this early voting, which we call special voting.
That is where the first mistake was made. You see, I have always felt that the commission as we have it now, sometimes I'm not being personal, it's not good to be personal, but the current crop of the commission set out to say that we're going to play by the rules. If you don't go by the rule, expect that you're going to be thrown out. We saw a situation where the commission, in its opinion, felt some presidential candidates had not met the requirements, and they threw them out. And we saw all that.
You're talking about the disqualification of some candidates.
Because they failed to do certain things, including getting ticks instead of mark.
Endorsing their nomination.
All those things. So I felt, oh, this particular set of commissioners are going to use the rule book to ensure that things are done properly.
You think they didn't do that?
Absolutely
Why?
not. Now you, in your question, the earlier question, you're asking me, multimedia submitted a list. But that is not what the rules say you should do. The rule does not require anybody to submit a list. If you go into the Public Elections Regulations 2016, CI 94, if you go to the section 23, it talks about special voters list, the compilation. What it does is that, for instance, Malik, you're going to vote on the day. What you do is you take a letter from your institution that, yes, Malik works with us. He's going to vote on this day.
I'm sure that's what we did. No, we just submitted. Those of us who were supposed to vote, who have duties on elections day, and I'm talking about journalists. We submitted our list to a point person.
No, you don't.
Who would send a letter with our passport?
You see, Malik, if we go into the section,
unless I'm mixing this up with the accreditation.
No, it's not. The accreditation may be different. If you go on the accreditation, that may be different. But if you want to be on the special voters list, you take your letter, you go to the EC, the returning officer,
individuals,
individually,
would that not lead to chaos if
No,
the thousands and
it
thousands of
shouldn't.
people who are voting were to go
see,
there individually with letters? That would lead to
but
chaos.
that's what the regulation says. I didn't make the regulation. It was the EC, and it is under the hand of the chairman of the commission.
Maybe going by the regulation would have led to some absurdity, because if
It wouldn't.
say 20,000 police officers are voting, do we reasonably expect that each of these 20,000 people will go to the EC with a letter each?
That is them. You see, Malik, my worry is that I didn't make the rules.
But how would that have resolved the problem that we had yesterday?
Because what would have happened is that each individual would have gone to the EC office and make the application by themselves to the returning officer for the constituency. In this case, you had the EC officials themselves taking the bulk. They would take the list. I mean, if you go to the forces, most of these security agencies, the commanders will prepare the list. They were even, they needed the ID cards. So you see, if you are dealing in bulk, for instance, some of the problems that arose was whether somebody would have gone there and they'll say, oh, you are not supposed to vote here. You're supposed to vote elsewhere. If the individual had gone there, just taking the card, they would have seen on the card, because the card contains unique polling station codes. And they would have advised you, oh, you didn't register here, or you should have transferred your vote earlier, so that quickly you know from the onset that on this day, you, Malik, for instance, you knew you were going to vote back in your home area.
Because the Electoral Commission was proactive enough to put all of this information on its website. So I went there to check because I wanted to be sure that my name was there at Wa East and my voting center was Fonsi in the Wa East district of the Upper West region. I wanted to be sure before I would travel. So I checked. It was on the website. If others didn't check, that couldn't have been the
good
fault
thing
of
is
the
that,
EC.
Malik, you are savvy. You understand these things. You know the essence of information. Quite a number of our people wouldn't bother to go and read.
And that's their problem. That cannot be blamed on the EC.
So go by the rules you set. That I don't mind. If the EC from the beginning has set the rules as they carried it out, I wouldn't have bothered. But let's not belabor the point. So after failing to go by their own regulation, you had so many of these problems. And then mind you, there are some comments all over the place that some people's names were deliberately taken off the list. You see,
is there a basis for this? Because
so if
the IGP again, John Kudala's name was not found, so for God's sake, who would take the IGP's name from the list?
Mind you, several commanders, several.
But who would take IGP's
No, name? I'm saying, it may not be true. A genuine problem might have occurred, but because we didn't follow the rules, somebody can easily say that when my commander was even sending the list, he deliberately took out my name. But if the individual had gone there, the person would have taken the issue up with the EC. That is why I say, let us follow rules. Because the EC itself says, let us follow rules.
Do you suspect that this is possible? That some people, for whatever motivation, would have had their names deliberately taken out?
No, I don't think so. For what purpose?
Is it a problem for you that the people who couldn't find their names suspected that their names have been taken out?
No,
because these are security persons and they were pretty upset. I got
extremely upset. I mean, I was watching live pictures of security personnel saying that, I mean, in Nima, for instance, let me give an instance. In Nima, 3 police officers held up the voting process for about 20-30 minutes. They said that if they can't vote, they won't allow their colleagues, other people to vote. They needed calm, cool heads to prevail, tempers to be calm, and all that. And I think this was a needless thing. But mind you, let me hasten to add that I don't think this is a fatal injury to the process. But it's on something we didn't need. It was uncalled for. And I'm very happy that the EC and its key stakeholders, the political parties, through the IPAC, has been able to fashion out a system to overcome the challenge. But I think we should learn from this and avoid such, for me, unnecessary problems.
The presidential candidate of the NPP, Nana Akufo-Addo, granted a joint interview to our own Evans Mensah and Omar Sanda of City FM this afternoon. And he said he thinks that it's absolutely important for individuals such as himself and the rest of the Ghanaian people to believe the EC when it says that it can and will conduct free, fair, credible elections. I want us to listen to what he said, then I'll come back to Mr. Oduro and find out whether he shares the optimism expressed by the NPP's presidential candidate.
Tended what happened yesterday are not going to be repeated on Wednesday. It has to be our hope, because I believe the wish of the Ghanaian people in their overwhelming numbers is to have an incident-free, fair, transparent process on Wednesday so that their voice can be properly articulated and heard. That's my understanding from the enthusiasm that I see of people all around, of our party people, of quote, ordinary people, is that they want to have an opportunity on Wednesday to express themselves in a clear and unequivocal manner about the future of their country and of themselves. So all of us must be on our knees and pray that the arrangements that the Electoral Commissioner has put into place are going to be satisfactory arrangements for on Wednesday, and that we will not have anything near a repetition of what happened yesterday. That has to be
You're welcome back. You're watching PM Express. You just watched the NPP's presidential candidate, Nana Akufo-Addo, talking to Evans Mensah, my colleague, and then Omar Sanda of City FM about his hope that what happened yesterday will not recur on December 7th. Do you share his optimism?
I believe so. The two events are not the same. By and large, those of us who are not special like you and are not we're not participating.
That's early voting.
I'm just because you say it's special voters list. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is that I think there is a particular process about the special voting which was not followed. By and large, this particular voter register has been used previously. We've used it not too long ago for the district assembly election, and it worked. So I don't foresee any major problem with the voter register come Wednesday. So I'm very optimistic as far as that is concerned. My only worry could be with maybe the BVDs machines and all those things. But for the register, I'm very, very confident that it won't give us any cause for worry.
The worry of some is if these just few, less than 500,000, we had the difficulties that we had.
Less than 300,000.
Right, less than 300,000, we had the difficulties that we have. When you are dealing with 15 million plus, that may turn out to be trouble.
No, I believe there wouldn't be any. I sincerely, I am hopeful, and I believe that there wouldn't be trouble, because already that bit of the work, the major part of that work has been done. What resulted in all this is, mind you, even with the special voters list, there were so many rumors about it.
Which is not new, because I covered the 2008 elections, and I remember clearly
there were issues.
There were serious issues with the 2008 early voting. There were several allegations from the opposition then. I went to the EC's office to cover protests about this early voting, and I remember very well Victor Smith swearing that if the Kufuor government dared his view was that the Kufuor government wanted to steal the election for Akufo-Addo. And if they did that, a guy behind him said this country will burn. So I remember that these early votings have always been problematic.
There has always been this problem with the EC and parties in opposition. I mean, let the situation, the tables turn, and you see that one group will be, the ruling party will always try to back the EC. So that's become a phenomenon that we must all accept, that it is not the right phenomenon, but that has become our culture in this country. So I'm not too worried. But the issue is that we need to also look at it that it is the process. I believe that the whole problem stemmed out of the processes. Mind you, even the day before, the parties were saying that they received new lists. And there were situations, I remember there were situations that people were saying that there were the party, the various parties at the polling centers were holding lists that they could find their name in those lists. But on the main list that EC itself was using, they couldn't find their name.
Yeah,
Yes. So it meant that they kept on changing the list, changing it. And again, it comes back to my view about going by the rules, because the section 2 of the under the special voters list, it says that it talks about it should be made not later than 42 days before the polling day. So how, when you have a system that you say that before 42 days you can do it,
the list must be ready.
Must be ready. There is a reason for saying that you must put in your application before 42 days of the election, meaning that you would have had ample time to make sure if there are problems, you deal with the problems and all that. But if the day before the election, you're going to have to change the voter list, then you can imagine that some of these problems can easily
crop up. The point you just made was what happened in the center where I went to vote. So I went to the Wa East, the voting center was Fonsi. So I went to the center, and when I got there, there was a disagreement. The disagreement was what? The earlier list that was submitted had 179 people on the list as voting. Then yesterday in the morning, the party agents got there was a new list, and this new list now had 180.
See?
So the party the party agents then decided that no, we don't have this 180
list.
So we are unable to verify the names on this list. Therefore, you cannot use that to conduct the elections. So let's stick to what we have, or better still, make a photocopy and give to us the agents. Then we can verify ourselves and then report back to our party headquarters. Then we can agree on whether we can use this. At that time, voting had to be held up. Eventually, they decided that, okay, let's use the 179 because that's what everyone has. So they relied on that. And the others who said, but you can't come bring us a register on the day that we are voting when we don't have it. So I had a conversation with the presiding officer for the election yesterday, who is also the returning officer for that, for that area. He's Abdul Mumin Yakubu. And he explained that, well, they held up for about 30 minutes, and then afterwards, they allowed everybody to vote. And there was peace. So I got there. My name was not on the 179. My name was on the 180. And then the party agents came together and decided that, okay, once my biometric data were on the system, they could allow me to vote because my name was actually on a list which had been brought by the EC. So they allowed me to vote.
So these are some of the problems. If we had stuck by the rules, if we had cut it off at the 42-day, I am pretty sure that these problems could have been resolved. Even within those 42 days before the election, we could have had possibility of, say, going to check on the list to see that, oh, I have put in my application. Is my name on the list? If at that time that it is not, then you could even have arranged to have it there so that you have enough time. But why did we have to wait till the last minute? Remember last week, there was all this talk between the political parties that the IGP
police,
was asking some names to be included, and it was unnecessary. I believe it's unnecessary. Let us go by the rules. If we play by the rule, we can avoid some of these
There was
problems.
not only anger, there was also some confrontation.
Yeah.
And we know about areas such as Ododo Dio, there was disagreement as to which party should put their seal on the ballot box first and who should do DS first. There was major disagreement. Are you worried?
I believe in the Ghanaian.
Okay, let me pick what transpired there. Our cameras captured what transpired in the Ododo Dio area when there was disagreement as to which party should put their seal there first, whether NDC or MPP, and then we can come back into the studio.
Hey, what are you? Hey, take this guy away. Take this guy away. Take this guy Which kind of
What's your main concern?
Our main concern is that these people have done everything in any way to do this election, and we will not allow it to apply. We will even die for it to apply. Because we are not ignorant people, and nobody can intimidate us because the police not arresting us. So what's the right? We know our rights. We know our rights. We are not stupid and ignorant
The regional executives of the MPP and members of other opposition parties were objecting to some recruits from the police training school at Pualogu in the Talinse district who were allegedly being allowed to vote as special voters even though they were not qualified.
The EC has added 703 recruits to vote in our constituency, which we petitioned to the police and the EC as at yesterday, 9 o'clock in the morning. And they said we'll hear from them before the special voting takes place today. And since then, yesterday, we followed up and we had nothing from them. And today we came here, we just saw the police bringing the recruits in a bus to come and vote, which we are contesting or protesting, because it is not accepted that recruits should be part of the special voting, 1. And 2, they are not even from our constituency.
Look, let's find a criteria. Let's find a criteria to imply with the due process so that we get a 703 out so the rest of the security personnel can vote. Because 1, we don't even know whether they are from Bolga Central. 2, if they are students, they are eligible to go home, take SDR to whatever to go home, wherever they are coming from, to vote. So why do you bring the 703 to Bolga Central alone to vote?
They would not allow voting to continue unless the said recruits were identified.
You're welcome back. You're watching PM Express, and you just watched 2 reports from Nima and Bolga. Earlier I said, this is Nima and Bolga. The last person you heard talking was our regional correspondent for Upper East, Albert Sorry, talking about what happened in the Bolga area. Earlier you watched what transpired at Nima here in Accra. Let me come to Sodru. Do we have a knack for complicating very simple matters?
Maybe yes and no. Some of them may not be as simple as we also may see it to be. And again,
because the people, let's take the Bolga one for example. They said there was a list out. When they checked through the list, there were 703 people who are still in the police training school who have been added to their list. They petitioned the police and said, look, these guys, first of all, don't come from this constituency. Secondly, they are still in training school, so they are unqualified to vote. And if they are to be believed, the police hasn't dealt with this. The day comes, they are brought to vote. If the police had just dealt with this, if their story is to be believed, would we not have spared ourselves the trouble that they had?
You see, Malik, let's establish one thing. Over the years, police recruits have been used to support election. They've been used on election days.
And they can vote in constituencies that they haven't registered and don't come from.
You see,
are not qualified
prior to this, what used to happen, as far as I can recollect, but I stand for a correction, is that people who participated in special voting
could vote anywhere.
Couldn't vote for parliamentary candidates.
Yes, and I
they
remember that
usually used to vote only for the presidential candidate, because the assumption is that as for the presidential election, there's one constituency. But if the person is not from the particular area, then they can't vote for the parliamentary candidates.
Yeah, because you can come from another area and make it cause.
So those times there wasn't much problem with who comes into vote in special voting. But let us establish the fact, unless maybe somebody will come up. I know in all the previous elections, whenever the need arises, they call upon even police recruits. I can remember they used to put on white T-shirts and they wear the police uniform, the trousers, but they don't wear normal. The top is not. I've seen quite some of them on some observations that I've seen. So I will plead we don't play that one out too much. But then the issue is that we have known these people would always be used in these activities. So why didn't we put their names on the list early enough? That is my worry. Okay, so their being on it is not a problem for me. That is the point. Because in previous elections, as I'm saying, I can recall them being used. So if they are used this time around, there shouldn't be any problem with that. But then my worry is, why are we, and again, we've also changed the process. Why is it that they used only to vote in presidential, now we are adding the parliamentary? These are some of the things that will
Does that not come to the point I raised about our knack to complicate things which are
maybe
ordinarily should be
on that score, I will agree. But then you always want to also ask yourself, are we not disenfranchising them to vote for a parliamentary candidate by insisting that the person is going on special duties not by choice, but by virtue of playing an important role? So should we also disenfranchise them? But then the best way is to give them the opportunity. If they want to vote for parliamentary, then they should go to their home constituencies or their regional constituencies so that they can vote and choose their presidential as well as parliamentary. But
you are not concerned that with this limited voting, extremely limited voting, the kinds of disagreements that we have may pose problems, and the security agencies must play a proactive role?
You see, what could have given a lot of cause for worry would have been having angry people going to police the process. That is the individual who you are saying go and police the process, you've disenfranchised the person. You didn't give an opportunity to the individual to go and vote. But now, because we're saying on Sunday, we're going to give them another opportunity for those who are qualified but missed out to vote, I believe they themselves will be at peace with themselves so they can go out there and police the process
and
for us.
Talking about peace, we are in election season, the industry is booming, the presidential candidates signed a peace pact. Let's pick some of at least two of the presidential candidates, what they said when they were signing the peace pact, and then we can talk about all this peace industry. Is it necessary at all? Can't we just conduct an election and let everybody go and vote and go home? After the votes are counted, if you win, celebrate in modesty. If you lose, hope that you can fight another day. Why do we have to hold a fanfare about peace whenever we are voting? Let's listen to some of the candidates and what they said when they signed the peace pact.
Like the vast majority of Ghanaians, I continue to believe in democracy as the best system of government under which this nation under God should be developed. I have spent nearly 4 decades of my life standing shoulder to shoulder with the people of Ghana in advancing the cause of democracy. I want to be president of a united country that is at peace with itself. The political parties, the Electoral Commission, the government, the security agencies, and the citizenry as a whole. There should be no lingering questions about the legitimacy of an election, and the winning candidate at the end of the process should receive the unalloyed support of all. That is how we can strengthen our democracy and the peace and stability of our nation. I can speak for the MPP and state without any equivocation that we will not do anything to endanger the peace of the nation in any way during these elections. It is in our interest that the elections come off peacefully and the outcome is credible. The government has a responsibility to move beyond the rhetoric of calling for peace and demonstrate a commitment to ensuring the state institutions discharge their duties professionally and with integrity. We, on our part, have no hesitation in signing up to a commitment to peace. I pledge, on behalf of the MPP and on my own behalf, that we shall accept the verdict of the people in the context of a free, fair, and transparent process. And we pray that Ghana retains its position as the shining example in Africa of a peaceful, democratic nation.
I, John Dramani Mahama, wish to state my utmost commitment to peaceful and successful elections. Indeed, I have more to lose than any of the other candidates here if this country breaks out in violence. I've been involved in politics of this country since 1996. My disposition as a non-violent person is widely known and acknowledged. All through my campaign, I have urged my followers to work for a peaceful election. I'll continue to do so in the time left before and after the election. And it's my wish that my fellow contenders will do so as they wind up their campaigns. I wish to salute my predecessors, President Jerry John Rawlings, President John Ajikum Kufuor, and President John Evans Atta Mills of blessed memory, for the peace and progress our nation has enjoyed. I have faithfully and diligently worked to follow their footsteps. I pray to the Almighty God that it shall not be my portion and that may not be under my watch that our dear nation Ghana would be consumed by violence. I pledge to carry out my dual role both as President of the Republic and as a presidential candidate in these forthcoming elections in a manner that shall preserve the peace and stability of our dear nation. I declare publicly my respect for the Electoral Commission and the authentic results that shall be declared by this commission. I declare my confidence in the people of Ghana to make a choice of their own free will of whom they wish to lead them over the next 4 years. And let me quote the words of my illustrious predecessor, Professor John Ibansata Mills, who said, "No amount of political power is worth the shedding of one drop of blood of any Ghanaian." Violence cannot be a reflection of a genuine desire to serve. I have absolute confidence in Ghana's capacity to successfully clear the upcoming democratic hurdle on 7th December 2016 and stay the course of democratic and economic transformation that I have initiated over the last 4 years. And finally, I give supplications to the Almighty God to see us successfully through the elections of 7th December 2016. We are still one people with one destiny, and may God bless our homeland, Ghana.
You're welcome. You're watching PM Express, and you just watched President John Dramani Mahama pledge peace. Before him was the NPP's presidential candidate, Nana Akufo-Addo, also pledging peace. There were many others, but we can't pick all of them. Let me talk to Mr. Odro. Are we making too much of a meal out of this peace? Do we really need this? If we don't do this, can we not just vote in peace?
Unfortunately, the political system we fashioned for ourselves leads to all these things. It leads to all the tension.
Do these pledges really contribute anything?
Well, maybe it helps.
How do we measure that?
You see, Malik, we have a governance system which relies on patronage. We've put so much power in the hands of one individual, the president. He makes so many appointments, ministers,
and affects so
district
many
chief executives, boards, diplomatic positions, and all those things. So, and there are people whose livelihood, let me put it like that, depends on being appointed by a president. Such a person believes, for as long as I can keep this president, sometimes even not a party, a particular person, for as long as I can keep this person in power, then I can enjoy some public goodies. So they will do anything and everything to keep an individual or a party in power. So I think we should go back. Mind you, there are people, they will be made. Let me tell you, even between Prof. Mills and President Mahama, we see that
a lot of things change.
There are changes.
After Mills died, Mahama came in. There
He
was
has
a shift.
his own team.
Within the same party, there was a shift in terms of power and the opportunities that come with it.
That should tell you that the power, the position of the presidency is too powerful. I think we need to look at these things and try to bring down the powers that the presidency holds, so that there won't be too much expectation that, oh, let me at all costs put my man in there. If my man is there, life will be good for me. So that is also one of the problems that is leading to all these things. However, I mean no offense, but there seem some people who might enjoy creating the tension situations so that they can also do their jobs.
Why have we fashioned a political system that kind of enhances insecurity, and yet after how many elections we haven't done anything about it? And I think all of us agree that the fact that people's lives change for the worse when their party loses power and for the better when their party wins power. This is the reason why people fight sometimes at the point of death to either keep their party in power or to bring their party into power. Why haven't we changed it?
The sad part of it is that if we look at even our parliament, it's so weakened because parliamentarians have got an eye on, say, being a minister, or at worst, serving on a board. So you go to parliament where you would expect the parliament to scrutinize things. It's, Unfortunately, I know I'll be vilified for saying this, but that is the fact on the ground.
No, I think the MPs themselves don't deny that.
So these are some of the things. So you want to fight and keep a particular person, at best a particular group in power, so that your business, your possible employment,
your contracts and all those things to flow.
So it's time we go back to looking at our constitutional
and the
framework.
point you are making about MPs, you have a constitution that says a certain number of ministers must come from parliament.
We should scrap that thing. If I had my way, that's one of the first things that should be scrapped.
You think it blurs the lines of separation of powers between the executive and the legislature?
That is what has led to. You see, we should have a system that MPs cannot hold any position apart from being an MP. You can't even serve on a board, so that you know that whatever happens, this is what I've gone in for. And they will concentrate and do their work. And I can tell you, even if the president's party has got majority in power, because the parliamentarians will feel independent, they will always make sure.
Will they feel independent?
Well, now, some of them
because we
are
know
so
the
dependent.
system, don't we?
If they were not relying, if there is no patronage in the system, the MPs will see that this is what I've been voted for.
If you come to parliament and don't work for the interests of the party, at your next primaries, they will sponsor a candidate against you.
Mind you see, you go into other systems, the US system, we can even follow the voting pattern of people. And individuals can be punished for voting on an issue. So it is time.
But your electorate don't vote for MPs on issues. They vote on how many people how many toilets have been built or how many roads have been paved, which is not the work of MPs. It is
because we've not allowed, you see, we were trying to do the hybrid system.
You think it's not working?
It is not for me. It is not. Because there are too many things going on that I thought the parliament could have done so much about, but they failed. So I believe that it is time that we need a strong parliament, a parliament that is not dependent on a presidency, a parliament that can stand up on its own feet and be the third arm of the state.
Do you think we will have that? I have a difficulty in believing that we will have that, because our political parties have become too powerful, haven't they? That they can decide that if you are not playing game, you are out.
You can't do that to all your MPs. If all your MPs know for sure. I mean, mind you.
Look at what the MPP did to Alajite, the late Alajite. The late Alajite was a former chairman of the MPP. He was considered for Speaker of Parliament. Alban Bagbin, minority leader at the time, led a protest. Alajite comes into the house, tries to be fair. In the MPP's second term, they brought Regina Sechi Hughes. They no longer wanted Alajite because he was too fair. So if you come in as an MP and you want to stick to the rules, they will sponsor a candidate against you. In fact, they can sponsor some of your own constituents to recall you.
Well, that could happen, but I believe that if we were also having a system that empowers the parliament, the presidency would look to the parliament with a lot of respect. I mean, in quotes, I'm not saying the presidency doesn't, but we will have a parliament that is not beholden to the presidency.
Do you think the caliber of MPs that we elect itself is a problem? the caliber of the persons we elect to parliament?
We've had some wonderful...
Because we no longer have the JH Menses.
Like I'm saying, we've had some wonderful legislators in this country. Even current parliament, there are outstanding individuals.
What percentage?
Well, unfortunately, it will be unfair to pick on names and say this person is doing well.
No, just look at what percentage of MPs you think are up to the task, that they have the gravitas and can stand up to their parties and to the executive and say, this is it?
Well, not too many. Not too many, but there are quite some who are also doing well. But mind you, one of the problems I have had in this country is the penchant for people to say, let's change this man. He's been there for too long. He's a Mugabe. He is this. Why? We know of the Kennedys. The late Kennedy, I mean the senator who passed, he was in the house for about 40 years. What kind of experience won't this individual have? If we allow people to have career in parliament, unless they are absolutely bad, why change it? Okay.
I guess that's a conversation we will have another time. It's been fabulous having a conversation with you.
Thank you very much.
That's Mr. Fred Odru. He is a governance analyst and he's also with the Institute of Local Government Studies. My name is Malik Abbas Dabu. At the weekend, did I say at the weekend? Yesterday I was in my constituency to vote, the Y East constituency. I met fabulous people. Uncle Zach of Laura Hospital, Aziz, Sharif Yasana, there was Honorable Smaila, he's assemblyman for Fonsi. All of these guys, wonderful people. You helped me cast my vote. Thank you very much. This is PM Express. God willing, next week we will bring you another exciting discussion on this platform. Until then, my name is Malik Abbas Dabu. Bye-bye.